Hi, my name is Joanne Martin with CBB. Now we will be breaking down the corridor into three different segments: West, Central, and East. First, we will talk through the various roadway configuration options for each of the three segments. Then we will discuss land use and urban design for each segment. The first segment in our study corridor is Main Street from 6th Street to 2nd Street. The first option for this west segment is to maintain the existing roadway configuration. This includes on-street parking on both sides of the roadway, as well as a 5.5-foot sidewalk. There is around a 2 to 4 foot buffer between the sidewalk and the roadway under existing conditions within this segment of Main Street, which would be maintained with this option. The second option for the west segment would be to maintain the existing roadway configuration, but to utilize some of the on-street parking spaces for parklets or food truck parking. Parklets are intended to provide people a place to stop, rest, and commune while downtown. In the picture on the left, you can see these parking spaces have been turned into outdoor dining area for a restaurant. This allows pedestrians to use their full designated space on the sidewalk without being impeded by other uses. Parklets could also be used for enhanced green spaces or bike parking. They allow the flexibility for quick project turnarounds and the chance to restore parking capabilities when needed. This option would keep the 5.5-foot sidewalks and 2 to 4 foot buffer as under existing conditions. The third option for the west segment would remove on-street parking on both sides and move the curb and gutter next to the driving lanes. This would provide room to increase the sidewalks to 10 feet and allow room for more streetscaping like tree lawn or planters. There would be space to install more benches or bike racks on Main Street as well with this option. The central segment is defined as Main Street from 2nd Street to Market Street. Note, we are not recommending any changes to the ongoing streetscape project on Main Street between Market Street and Independence Street. The first option for the central segment is to maintain the existing roadway configuration, which includes on-street parking only on the north side of the road. In this portion of the corridor, the sidewalks are wide as the storefronts are close to the roadway, and little to no buffer space is available between the pedestrians and cars. There is limited green space in some portions in this segment of the corridor. The second option for the central segment would be to keep the existing roadway configuration, but to utilize some of the existing parking spaces for the temporary parklets, as we had discussed earlier for the west segment. This option would maintain the existing 8-foot sidewalks and would only provide increased buffer space on the north side of the road where the parklets are implemented. The third option for the central segment would be to remove on-street parking on both sides and move the curb and gutter next to the 2 driving lanes. This would allow the installation of a planting strip next to the roadway, as well as any other pedestrian amenities like decorative lighting, wayfinding signage, and benches. The last segment is the east segment, which is Main Street from Independence Street to Mine Street. The first option, as before, is to maintain the existing roadway configuration. In this portion of the corridor, there are 9-foot parking lanes on both sides of the roadway. This portion of Main Street is more residential than the rest of the study area, so there is more green space along the roadway in front of the private homes. However, the sidewalks are limited to 5.5 feet on both sides of the roadway. The second option for the east segment is removing the on-street parking on both sides of the road, moving the curb inward and providing more pedestrian space. The sidewalks can be widened to 8 feet on both sides, and there is additional room for streetscaping and decorative lighting within the right-of-way limits.
Now we start to get even more detailed as we get down to the segments that we talked about earlier and start to look at the real possibilities that can happen in those areas. And again, we'll start from the west and move east. We had mentioned earlier that the museum and the Pig Creek corridor provided a really interesting opportunity for development. And in this diagram, which is really a rough sketch of ideas, you'll see the idea developed of the museum and a walking path that connects into the neighborhood to the north. that follows the creek corridor as a greenway. Those little vertical things or those little shadows are thought about as being historical displays or pillars or monuments that can help people understand the story of Mascoutah, both past, present, and future. Um, there also are development sites that provide some opportunities. The number 3, for example, is the old filling station that's vacant right now. That could be a very cool thing. There's some other properties that are either deteriorated now or could be developed with small projects. And an important theme that you'll see throughout our thinking is taking those parking lots along Church Street and making them both more attractive and more efficient, which would provide some additional opportunities in terms of the shape and form of the street itself. So these are things that we have are looking at in the west segment of the corridor. Now we move into the central area, and although I won't go through all of these 10 items, there are a number of common ideas. They include, again, the redesign of a lot of the parking lots along Church Street, which which can become much more efficient and again much more attractive and easy to use with cooperation and with planning as a unified whole. We have put a major stress on some of the ideas around the Railway Street intersection that could provide both a lot of public green space, almost a city square in the middle of our study area corridor, and opportunities for new development or reoccupancy as well of both the mural building and of the former laundromat and hardware store on the southeast corner. We also have suggested residential development of small-scale residential buildings like townhouses or duplexes or what we call semi-attached houses that feel single family on some of the vacant sites around our study area corridor. And finally, a significant emphasis on the first block west of Jefferson Street that we sometimes refer to as a subway block, again providing off-street parking and in common with other locations around the study area here, providing pass-throughs between these parking lots to Main Street. So all of these are common ideas that we think can be attainable and can make the central part of our corridor, the real core, a lot better and a lot more to be in. Finally, when we come to the east, there are a variety of ideas, one of the most significant of which is defining a green corridor on axis or lined up with the steeple of Holy Childhood Catholic Church. That's an important feature that can be carried through the district and takes advantage of that great landmark that we see from a distance as we enter Mascoutah. We have developed a parking lot design here which can do that without having any impact at all on the number of parking stalls in that lot, simply by making some elements of the lot more efficient and using Church Street as part of the parking resource. There are opportunities in the East Corridor for creative space, workshops, and studios. That's on the Independence to Jefferson block, and you see that in the number 1. And a number of possibilities in this corridor for filling gaps up with different kinds of housing. Again, primarily family-related, what we call medium density houses. So those are like townhouses, smaller lots, single-family houses, attached, and even some row house or townhouse settings that we think will be appealing to younger households moving into Mascoutah to take advantage of the city and its closeness ultimately to Metrolink, and its character as well, and also to seniors seeking to downsize. Um, in our next group, we'll take this even to a more detailed level as we look at individual sites.